Happy holidays, everyone. Today we're going over several different styles of bow staff, because I know that there are a ton of little nuances and differences when you really get into it. And so finding the right size, shape, or material can be kind of daunting for anyone new into martial arts or buying something for the holidays for a family member or friend. And so don't worry, I got you. I've been using traditional bow staffs for more than 2 decades, and I've been competing with them for over half of that time. And so as we go through these different types of bow staffs, I'll be able to help explain what they are for. Generally, obviously, people can use them for different things if they choose, but I'll give you a basic rundown of what they're for, and that way it will help you find out if it's the right one for you. And as we go through these different types of staffs, I want to know one thing. What is your first bow staff? And I'll let you know what mine is and even show it to you at the end of the video. But first, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, that would be awesome. We are going to start off with one of my personal favorites of the different designs, the competition bow staff. This double tapered design is great for competition for many reasons, but one of the biggest ones being speed. Its smaller tips lighten the overall weight of the staff and helps to concentrate the center of mass in the actual center of the bow staff instead of having the weight more evenly distributed. So when you decide to spin it for competition at high speeds, it's much easier to control. The taper also plays into the aerodynamics of the staff as well, allowing it to fly through the air with less drag, keeping it even more stable and consistent when compared to other bow staffs. And obviously, consistency is key when you're doing something for a competition, like on a stage. If you're doing a trick or a special move, you don't want to have it just by chance fly out of your hands and hit anyone in the audience or one of the judges. So having a consistent staff that you can really easily get that extra speed means a lot. And that goes double for any weapon tricks. As you may know, I love doing weapon tricks with different weapons, whether that's swords or bow staffs or nunchucks, all of them. And so having a consistent staff that I can get going fast and be consistent is key. Like, even if the drag would take off just an inch of deviation with your tricks, that could mean a lot. Like, I know at first glance it may not seem like a ton, but when you're talking about the highest level competition against some of the best competitors in the world, just the inch really matters. Like, a little bit goes a long way. Speaking of inches and details, I just want to take a moment to go over the height of your bow staff. This can definitely depend on what you're used to and what you prefer. So I'm only giving you my suggestion. So if you want a staff that is completely different, that's okay. That's just not what I've been used to training in the different martial arts that I've been trained in. With that disclaimer said, my suggestion is to be just about 2 inches either above or below your height for any bow staff you're considering to get. This generally will make sure that your bow staff isn't too long to control, meaning you don't want it to hit the ground when you do a spin or any kind of move and it hit the ground because it's too long for you, and it keeps it long enough so that you can actually get good range with your bow staff without it being, you know, a super short child-sized staff. Unless you are a child, in which case buying a child-sized staff is just fine. But you get my point. 2 inches plus or minus of your height. Now, if you really wanted to get super specific, it's not really necessary, but if you did absolutely want to do that, for my competition staffs, I choose 1 inch shorter than my height. But again, unless you're going on lots of national level competitions all of the time, you're really not going to need that level of precise measurements for your bow staffs. If you're considering one for training and general use, you really don't need to get that specific. Now, obviously, this staff right here is a great example of one in this category. It's 6 feet tall and going to be a nice and light 1 pound 3 ounces. They're also going to have a 4 and 5 foot variation as well that is obviously going to be a little bit lighter. It's also going to be about 1 inch diameter in the center, which tapers down to a ½ inch on both sides. And this is going to be made of hard wood. That basically means that it's going to be a lot more durable and less easily broken when compared to some other competition staffs on the market. It's not actually designed for combat. I wouldn't go that far, but it's definitely not just a simple toothpick staff. And as someone who loves trying out new tricks that would definitely break other staffs, I really enjoy having the durability to give it a try without worrying about completely ruining my day because I broke my staff. Now, the white oak staff is what I would think most people consider as the definitive traditional staff. The straight hardwood staff is great for several different things. That may be strength training or doing form work or even some combat training and drills. It has plenty of uses. Personally, as a martial artist that spends a lot of his time competing, I love using these heavier staffs and these more solid staffs for strength training and speed training. Because going fast with this guy means I can go a whole lot faster with the competition lighter versions. Kind of like how Rock Lee in Naruto drops his ankle weights when the fight gets serious. And the strength of this wood allows me to make contact with other staffs without worrying about it actually breaking in my hands. And that's a great thing for a staff if I'm going to be training any type of combat with. I have been training before and gone for a block and the other person's bow staff goes straight through my staff and almost hit me in the head. So having a bow staff that I can trust to protect myself is key. And this specific staff from KarateMart is a great example of a staff in this category. It's a 6 foot tall staff weighing in at nearly 2 pounds, at 1 pound 12 ounces, and comes in a 4 and 5 foot variation as well. It's going to be 1 inch in diameter from tip to tip, and you can really feel how solid this bow staff is. The white oak just has a certain feel to it that seems right in your hands. And honestly, out of all the staffs on the list, if I was going to grab one of them to defend myself in like a real life scenario, this would be the one. It's at least tied for the strongest bow staff on this list, and I just prefer the rigid staff as opposed to the more flexible staff that we'll get into next. But this one is actually really good for beginners into bow staff. Just anyone who hasn't trained officially in bow staff yet, this is great for your first one. That being because as a new person with a bow staff, that heavier weight will help you build up the muscles that you need to be able to use your staff correctly, and it's going to be a lot harder to break. And so having a bow staff that you don't have to replace after 6 months is fantastic, because no one likes buying bow staff after bow staff after bow staff because they keep breaking them. And so just like all the other weapons on this list, make sure to check out the description down below so you can get one of these bad boys for yourself, or you can get one of the other cool weapons that we talk about in this video. But I digress. Let's get back to the flexible feature that I talked about just a little bit earlier. Our third bow staff is the skinless Rattan bow staff here. This is the other one I choose in a combat situation. Just like the last one, I have the 6 foot variation, and it comes in 4 and 5 foot as well. It also is, just like before, 1 inch in diameter. But unlike the nearly 2 pound white oak staff, this one weighs in at only 15 ounces. The weight reduction is thanks to that smooth finished skinless rattan wood. The rattan bamboo gives the staff several unique properties when compared to the white oak or the competition staff that we just talked about. Obviously, the weight is less and it's going to be significantly more flexible than the other bow staffs, making it a lot safer for partner work than something like the white oak staff would be. Now, that doesn't mean it won't hurt. It definitely will. But it would hurt a lot less than the hardwood staff just because it has some give to it. It's also going to be very, very durable, just like the white oak staff. However, they won't react the same way when taking damage. Generally, rattan will start to break down and almost shred when taken to its limit damage-wise. This means that you won't have any big broken shards flying anywhere throughout your classroom, which is great for kids who, can break a staff every now and then, and you really don't want to have shards of sharp wood flying everywhere. It'll just break down and shred out. However, that's still going to be a rare occurrence. If it does happen, it's probably going to be after years of heavy use. And so if you have a school where you want to make sure to keep safe, this is a great way to do that good training while staying safe. Now, I personally don't love the more elastic style staff when compared to the more rigid ones. That really just comes down to my personal training and background. Not because hardwood is inherently better or anything like that. It's just my preference, and that's what it comes down to, your preference. And so if you like the more rigid ones, you have that white oak solid staff, and if you like the more flexible lighter ones, you have this Rattan staff, basically falling under the same use, with the exception of strength training, but falling over the overall the same general use. But if I'm being honest, this does have an edge over the white oak when it comes to partner work. However, there is one weapon on this list that is better for partner work than this bow staff. But before we get into that, I wanted to take a moment and thank you guys for watching Weapons Wednesday this year. There's been a bunch of good times, a bunch of changes, and a bunch of weapon testing fun, and I'm happy to be a part of this community. I just want to say thank you guys, and I hope you're having a wonderful end to your year throughout the holidays. I really can't wait to see what the new year brings, but let's get into our final staff. The last staff of the last episode of Weapons Wednesdays in 2023 is also arguably the most fun out of all the staffs. It's the black foam staff that is literally built to have fun with and stay safe while doing so. Just like previous staffs, I have the 6-foot variation weighing in at about 1 pound 10 ounces, and it comes in 4 and 5-foot variations as well. The one I'm going to be using is a bit thicker than the others at 1.25 inches in diameter, but that's because it's made with safety in mind. The hollow foam core as well as the foam outer case will allow it to keep the flexibility of the Rattan staff and be safe for combat because of its foam properties. So safe, in fact, that I actually use this staff to play games with the kids' classes at my school. The safety allows you to train with it in ways that would be crazy with any other staff. That hollow core keeps it from being too rigid on impact, so allowing the staff to take some of the force. The type of foam padding is also really durable. A lot of foam weapons are filled with stuffing that can spill out if it gets damaged or cut open in any way. Even after some use, some foam weapons will just start to deflate by losing foam over time. Now, this specific foam is more solid, and any cuts or damages it may sustain in training would end up just affecting the look of it, but nothing really as far as the structure and security of the staff. And that's honestly great for me because I hate cleaning up, when one of the bags starts to leak the stuffing inside, or one of the foam weapons starts to leak the stuffing inside. I hate cleaning that stuff up, and this is just so much easier. I plan to use this staff to spar Instructor Bensei when I meet up with him early next year. Keep that one as a secret for me if you could. But yeah, it's a fantastic staff that you can get from KarateMart.com, just like all the other staffs on this list. Hopefully this video has helped you decide what your next staff will be, or helped you pick out the next staff you're getting for your family or friend. Because if you ask me, you can't have too many bow staff. It just can't happen. That's partly because I love them, and partly because I may have a habit of breaking some of my weaker bow staffs out there, doing certain tricks in concrete areas. It's a bad habit. I don't know what to tell you. But that's besides the point. For those of you still here for my answer to the question I asked you earlier on, my first staff was a tapered hardwood staff. Specifically this one right here. You can see the sun damage and the actual abuse that this thing has taken over the decades. And right now, it's retired and hanging mounted on my wall above my TV. But that's all I have for today. I want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone. I hope the holiday season is going great for all of you. My name is DJ, the Modern Ninja, and I'll see you next year on Weapons Wednesday.